Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and today we're talking about the Jewish holiday of Sukkos and also the hidden deeper meaning of Sukkos. But before we go into the hidden deeper meaning, of course, we have to talk about basic Judaism, then go deeper from there. So there are many holidays in the Jewish month of Tishrei, which is around September, October. The first day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year. And we talked about that in a previous show. Then comes on the 10th day, almost like a week later, Yom Kippur was the day of forgiveness, very holy day, the holiest day of the year. And just really only 4 days later, which is really compacted, is the 15th day of Tishrei, is just the holiday of Sukkos. Sukkos means huts or booths because we sit in the booths. The reason for that is that everything is dependent on the going out of Egypt. The Jewish people received their freedom, and it wasn't just freedom. Again, we can talk about, I always try and compare what people know about, of course, is the American Revolution, when the American people received their freedom. So I know there was a war and people got killed and there was a hardship, but it wasn't really miraculous, you can say. I mean, a little bit miraculous, again, fighting against the British Empire, but it wasn't open miracles. Now, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, and Egypt was a very strong, powerful country, and people just didn't run away from Egypt. And here you have a whole nation, about 3 million people, going out of Egypt and no one getting hurt, and that truly was a miracle. So the Jewish people always remember that. That's the Passover Seder. Even though every day you should be thinking about it, but that's really the major holiday of Passover. Now, what is Sukkos? Now, where did you live? Now, the Jewish people, the basic story is that they wandered in the desert for 40 years. Well, there were no holiday inns in the desert. I don't think there is even today in the 21st century, to tell you the truth. And where do you stay, and where do you where do you get your food, and where do you get the water? Again, maybe a handful of people can go by camel and have a little tent. Again, you're talking about 3 million people, and just to compare it, it's just that's a major. Here we're in the 21st century with 7 billion people on the planet, and that's like a major city, even in the United States, which, we have over 300 million people. That's a major, major city that you have to supply food, water, and shelter to. How are you going to do that? So these were only done through miracles. Like I say, there was no cities built up where you could stay at someone's house. There's no water fountains in the middle of the desert. There's not that much food, surely for 3 million people. And these were all done with miracles. So the booths were the Jewish people. There's an argument. Some say they lived in huts. They made huts or tents. And other people say it was the other opinions in the Talmud say that it was the 7 clouds of glory, they're called. Anani Akavod, the clouds of glory. Why do you have 7? 4 from either side, 4 directions. 1 above, because you can only imagine the sun. I never was in the Sinai desert, but it's a desert. What does they get, 100 degrees, even more? Who's going to walk around there? You need shade. So 1 was to protect the shade above you. And then 1 was below to carry the people who are young, little kids walking around a desert. Little kids, they walk a block, they're already kvetching already and complaining. So you needed them to carry the young people, and they're the older people, of course, and they need help. And that would protect them. And then that's 6. And then 1 right in front of them to guide them, number 1, to where they're going. But number 2 is they would straighten out going up a mountain, and there's hills. It's actually, the Sinai Desert is very, very beautiful. People have gone there, and I haven't, but the people who have gone there and toured there, you think a desert is just plain old sand, but it's actually very beautiful, and there are like hills and mountains in the middle of the desert. So there are hills, and of course, going up a hill, it's difficult. So it's flatten out the hills, number 1. And then there was these scorpions. Again, you can imagine in a desert. I mean, there's reptiles everywhere, but scorpions and snakes, and they're of course they're dangerous, and they would just get rid of them as they would move on. And so that would be this why there were 7 clouds of glory. So therefore, in the time of Sukkos, that we remember, again, it was, like I said, totally miraculous, how they were protected in the desert. We have the holiday of Sukkos. The next basic Judaism question is, well, yeah, I understand it, like I just said, it's connected to Passover, but the holiday of Sukkos, like I say, is September, October, is literally 6 months after Passover. Maybe there should be Passover, and the week after it should be Sukkos. But it's not, like I said, why not? So in any case, Dad, what we do is to participate. We sit in little huts or booths, and you tack up 4 walls, and the roof should be see-through, so to speak, not a totally empty. It should be at least 50% shade, but you put evergreens on it or pine bushes. I remember I was in Florida, they put other pines. Some people put corn husks on top or just some kind of vegetation. And the roof would be obviously going to be leaking. And that's also a lesson for us. That again, when God protects us, we need protection. You can say, well, we have a strong army, and hey, I got a brick house. It's not so simple as that, because armies get defeated, number one, and houses, get blown away, and hurricanes and robbers come just because you're protected. Every person still needs God's help, no matter who you are and what you are and how protected you are, how many alarms you have around your house and security guards. You still need God's help. And that's what we're symbolizing. The elements are coming in. You feel shaky. Oh, it's not such a big house. It's 4 walls. And, it's like little walls. In any case, that it's leaking. And if it rains, and therefore you feel the wind's blowing and it's a little chilly, and that's why we just know that we're dependent on God's protection. Now, this is, well, again, why can't you do that in the spring? Well, if we did in the spring, and just typical, we're not in Miami Beach, which it's hot all the time, and you keep your lawn chairs out the whole year, unless there's a hurricane, that in any case, that, normal people, and we know that in Capital District and up north, that, hey, you can springtime, you bring out your lawn chairs. Hey, it's getting nice in April, May, it's springtime, it's beautiful out. And then in October, hey, it's getting windy, it's getting cold, and who knows if there'll be an early snow. So therefore, pack it in, bring in the hammock and bring in the lawn chairs. From the outside, you don't want to get them rusted. So now that's normal people. So now the Jewish people, they put out their huts and they said, well, where are you going? We're sitting outside, we're eating outside. Some people even sleep outside. It's not the Chabad custom, but some people do. What are you doing then? It's, like I said, September, it's October already. It's getting cold, it's rainy time, it's the fall. What are you doing out there now? We're packing it in. And you're sitting outside. So he says, well, that's the reason. We're not doing it for our enjoyment. We're doing it because God told us that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that underscores that idea in the best possible way. No one's saying, oh, it must be you like sitting outside in October, and that's why you're sitting outside. No one sits outside like that. So in any case, that is the reason, again, more of the basic reasons for Sukkos. And then another thing before we get into a deeper idea is that we hold, I should have it here, but I don't, that a citron, there's 4 types of plants, a palm branch, very together, not like spread out the leaves, but very concise. A citron looks like a lemon, but it's the same family as a lemon, but it looks like but it's from like Italy, Israel. Then we have the dassim, which are the willow, the myrtles and the willows, and just a few branches of them, and we hold them together and we say a blessing on them. Again, that's to symbolize, and we'll get into a little deeper reason, but the basic reason is what September, October, again, perfectly for our climate. It's the harvest season. You see things, the apple, everybody goes apple picking in September, October. The harvests are coming in, or maybe they come in a little earlier, but it's the harvest time. Really, that's where in America, Thanksgiving. All right, I know that's the end of November, but on the other hand, that's September, October, November, that's the harvest time. So again, people say, oh, they're a farmer, who cares about the rain? But obviously we need farmers, because else how are we going to eat? So, you can do without a lot of professions, but you need to eat. So the farmers and the farmer conditions, the weather is super duper important for us, for every human being. Just so you go to the supermarket, I'll pick up my fruit at yeah, but it's coming from somewhere. And it's coming because of good weather conditions. And therefore it's concerning us all. Maybe it was a little more concerning to people thousands of years ago because there were more farmers. Today there are more city people than farmers, but still we all need the farms, and we still all need the food to survive. So therefore we're celebrating the harvest, and that's what carrying the fruits and the leaves, that they should be we're thanking God for a good harvest. You have to thank God for everything that happens, because again, like I say, people, just like I said with the house, you can have all the security guards and you see people do break in with all their alarms. And it's the same thing. Nowadays there are droughts in certain areas, and the harvests go bad, and certain places of the world there's terrible famines. So it's not, again, automatic. Well, of course there's going to be food. We need the rain, and with all the computers and technology that no one has made the rain, this amount of rain, that amount of rain, it's all dependent on the heavens, and that means that God's in charge. And we have to be thankful, not only pray for what we want, but be thankful for what we receive. And that's a very important lesson for us. So in any case, that we're going back to the holidays of Sukkos. And in the idea of Sukkos, there's the basic Judaism to review. We sit in a hut for 7 days, and we hold the lulav and esrog, that's the Hebrew words, the palm branch with the citron and two other, the myrtle and dasam, and the willow, the myrtle and I'm using the Hebrew, and the willow. In any case, that this is what we symbolize on Sukkos. What is the deeper meaning? That's what we're saying, the hidden deeper meaning of Sukkos. Well, that you understand that we have 248 limbs of the human body. I know the science says 203, but different bones, different joints, different finger points. Bottom line, there's over 200, and that we have different commandments, and hey, close enough that there's 248 positive commandments, and that's a perfect correspondence to the 248 limbs that we have. Now, there are different commandments for different things. Certain mitzvahs we do with our left arm and our head, which are the tefillin, the phylacteries. Certain mitzvahs we eat. We talked about Passover before. It's a mitzvah commandment on Passover to eat matzahs. You eat the commandment. At certain times we have different things which we have to use other limbs for. In any case, they can't go through 248 now, but it's very, very interesting. But now let's tune back into the Sukkos. That's what we're talking about. Now, Sukkah, what limb do you need? You have to sit inside of it, your whole body. So that's very, very deep, which we're so encompassed by God and in our whole body, not our arm and our foot and our eyes and our nose and our ears. Certain, like I said, there's mitzvahs, there's commandments for every part of the body. But on the other hand, in Sukkah, you're sitting there with your whole body and you're encompassed with the commandment. Now, everything, we don't know what's happening spiritually. I can't take you, hey, let's go on a journey with me and we'll go into a higher spiritual world. And just even if we feel it, in which we should, and to know about it, which we should, we're really not there. We really don't know exactly the spiritual world, but we can understand it. And God gave us a handle on these spiritual ideas by corresponding them, correlating them to the physical world. Let's get back to Sukkos again. So what is Sukkah? How do we affect spiritual things on Sukkos? Well, look, again, let's start with the physical and then go deeper, like I always say. So we're sitting there, And what's the mitzvah really is there's 4 walls, which you need 4 walls to hold up a roof. But the main thing is a schach, it's called, which is the roof overhead. And that's very, very deep. It actually says that on one thing on Yom Kippur, and we talked about a different show, but one idea was they would put very strong incense, totally strong incense, would be a pillar and cloud and would smoke. Again, spiritually, from that spiritualness on Yom Kippur, that roof of the sukkah comes about. Again, it's spiritual, not physical, but that's a very important spiritual roof, because that's what makes the roof. Well, before you could say, well, I have to have a leaky roof. Why don't I just put some boards and 2x4s all over the place, tar it, and it won't leak. And it won't leak on my head if it rains, which many times it does, September and October. Wouldn't that be a better idea? Well, maybe a better idea, but that is not the mitzvah. That is not the commandment. They have a leak-proof roof. Really, it's supposed to, like I said, leak through, and you should even see the stars, it says, when you're looking up at night. So therefore that's, and we said that's, again, trepidatious. It's windy and it's rainy. But in any case, that is the mitzvah. And that mitzvah, though, is surrounding us. Because, for example, many mitzvahs you do, it's you. You eat the matzah. So you can't say, hey, could you eat the matzah for me? No, I can't. You have your own mouth and stomach. You eat the matzah on Passover. I can't eat the matzah for you. I do my own thing. But now look, compare and contrast that to sukkah. It's a one-man sukkah, a one-woman sukkah? No. You can have a yud sukkah. We have the yud sukkahs here in Delmar because we invite a lot of people in big parties. And 10, 20, 30 people come into the sukkah. It's not a one-man sukkah. It's a one-man eating, but and you can eat also, but you don't eat the same food. What goes into my mouth doesn't go into yours. But here's a 30, 40, 50 people sukkah. And we're all sitting there enjoying the same thing. So that's interesting. This is the deeper idea. That shows on the high, deeper spirituality, where the schach, the covering the sukkah, encompasses all in. So that's a very deep idea, which something encompassing shows on something higher, something deeper, something not individual, that can take in different people, men, women, children, few, lot, different, all kinds of different people, but it's all so encompassing and so overbearing that it actually brings in many people together for this oneness. Again, we always stress that oneness of the commandments. For every commandment, you're trying to connect yourself to the one God. And this is different ways to do it, like I said, through your hand, through your head, through your mouth. Different ways to connect yourself in all different kinds of ways. But on the other hand, here's a mitzvah. Look at it now. That takes us all in. Takes you as a person all in, not just your hand or heart. It's your whole person sits in the sukkah. And now let's carry it further. You can have 10, 20, 30 people. Depends how big your sukkah is. There are big sukkahs. No problem with that. That you can take in. They're all one. Now the next step is, now you have a very encompassing light. That's what they call it, a makif, encompassing light, that takes us all in. But you want to personalize it also. So that's very, very important to personalize these commandments. So now, as I told you before, there's the lulav, I call it the lulav and esrog, that's the Hebrew words, the palm branch, these 4 types, and you shake them to all 6 directions. Up, down, and all 4 directions, and all around. And that just wards off any evil spirits around you. So again, you have a good year. It's done for 7 days. What's 7 days? Full week, full cycle. Again, 7 always, what we say, is a number that recurs in Judaism, because that's a full unit. And 7 days, and you're shaking the lulav. But you're not only shaking it, you're bringing it back. Every time you shake it, you're touching your chest. And what does that symbolize? And again, really you can have the lulav and esrog everywhere. And that's why good Chabad people that in the middle of Manhattan, they, again, when you can drive in the middle, intermediate days, they go everywhere. and you can put the lulav and esrog in someone's hand, a Jewish person who didn't do it before today and that day, and shake it. So you can do it anywhere you want. On the other hand, the preferable way is to do it to bench and to bless and make the blessing on the lulav and esrog in the sukkah. And why? Because here it is, the deeper symbolism. Because you're taking that encompassing light of the sukkah, which is external, it's taking everybody in, and you're bringing it in with the lulav and esrog into your heart, into your chest, and personalizing it. So that's a very beautiful idea, because it's a major, major idea in Judaism, that even though that there's community, like I said, you sit with other people in the sukkah, and it's only nice to, and inviting guests, which is a very special thing, always inviting guests and other people into your house, into your sukkah. On the other hand, we want it to be very individualized. So therefore, it's not like, oh, well, I'm just one of many, which you are, and you are part of the community. On the other hand, you individualize it to making it very personal to you, that you can bring it into you, into your heart, which is your heart and your personal idea, making it very spiritual and mystical for your personal experience and the spiritual and mystical ways. So that's a beautiful and deeper idea, what Sukkos is all about, and the lulav and esrog. Now it comes very interesting to continue the idea of, because there's 7 days of Sukkos, like I said, but now there's 2 additional days tacked on, and that is Shmini Atzeres, which is Shmini does mean the 8th, because we said Sukkos is 7, so the day after is the 8th day, and the 8th day of ingathering, where the Jewish people, now it's a very, very interesting idea of Sukkos. Now, even though the Jewish people or the holy people, they're the chosen people, they do care about all humanity. It's symbolized really by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson. He always cared about not only the Jewish people or his group, he cared about all humanity. And that's a very, very important idea. And here again, Sukkos underscores that very point, because it says that there were 70 bullocks, a lot of sacrifice going on in the temple in Jerusalem. Again, today we only have the Western Wall, but 2,000 years ago and further and deeper into history, we did have a full temple, and they brought 70 bulls on Sukkot. So again, what's the number? What's the symbolism? And the 70 bulls refer to the 70 nations. Now I know that there are around 200 nations in the United Nations. So you say, where's the 70? But they're offshoots. Again, what's the difference between North Korea and South Korea? They're the same people. All right, I know there's difference politically, to say the least, but really they're the same people. And you can say that for a lot of the Middle East, this kind of Arabs, Syria and Iraq. They're just really, because people made different lines of different nations. Let's face it, they're really a lot of peoples are really the same kind of people, even though they're subdivided in different nations. Again, you can even in the United States, what's really the difference between an American and a Canadian? You go up to Canada and they look the same, they speak English up there. Again, politically, I know, of course, there's a difference, but on the other hand, really, are we really a different kind of people than the Canadians? I mean, on and on. So therefore, there's 70 nations, and therefore the Jewish people brought the bull on behalf, listen to this, on behalf of the 70 nations. That not only, again, we said before, the harvest time that we should eat and have a good harvest, but you're trying to promote and bless all the nations, all peoples of the world, that they should eat. We don't want to see anybody starving to death and have famine. Everybody should be prosperous. Everybody should eat well. And that's why we bring the symbols. Now, it's very, very interesting, even though they're talking about the United Nations, there's a lot of anti-Israel, anti-Zionist sentiment in the United Nations. The Medrash, the homiletics of the Jewish learning 2,000 years ago, said if the 70 nations would know what these sacrifices are doing on their behalf, bringing blessings, in other words, they would have a ring around Jerusalem like really a United Nations force. That's really what they're talking about, but it's 2,000 years ago. And ring around the Jerusalem that no one should harm them, because it's for their good, their blessings, that the Jewish people are bringing these sacrifices, these 70 bulls in the temple. So therefore, Sukkos is for all humanity. But then back to Shmini Atzeres, that every person, even though, again, I know we have bar mitzvahs and weddings, and we invite, I know so many people, so we have hundreds of people coming to our Simchos or happy occasions. But ultimately, hey, when my kids come home, I want to have a private dinner with them also, and not just have a few hundred people around. So that's what the Almighty says. 7 days, fine. All humanity should be blessed, and let's bring sacrifices on their behalf. On the other hand, that very few people are the Jewish people compared to all humanity. They're a minority, and just let's have a special holiday for them, and that's Shmini Atzeres. Then Simchas Torah, to finish it off in the last few minutes, even though it should deserve its whole show for its own right to explain it. We finished the Torah. Now the Torah has 5 books of Moses, even though there's prophets, but we're talking about the 5 books of Moses. And every one of the 52 weeks, we read one portion. And it takes 1 year cycle, and we finish the whole Torah. And that is Simchas Torah, which literally means the happiness of the Torah. Just like I always say, when you finish something, people have graduation parties. It's a whole big party, and you celebrate. So too, when you finish the 5 books of Moses, that's worthy of celebrating, and that's what happens on Simchas Torah. We dance, you dance together because you're happy. Officially, people have a few l'chaims, a few drinks, make themselves even happier. But the idea is that we're happy concluding the Torah. And one a little bit deeper idea is you would say, well, if you're learning the Torah, and that's learning, so much learning going on, and you do every year because you can never fathom the depths of the Holy Torah, that what happens is that you should be learning. Wouldn't that be a better idea than to go dancing around? But again, that is not really what happens. You don't learn on the Simchas Torah. You take the Torah and put the mantle, meaning the covering over it, which of course once it's covered, you can't read it, you don't know what's happening inside of it. It's a closed book, so to speak, even though it's a scroll, I know. But it's a closed book, and you dance with the closed scroll. And you don't know what's happening inside of it because you're not reading it, and you're dancing with it. Wouldn't it be better to read the scroll and to understand what's happening and get a beautiful idea from the Bible? But this is really the deeper idea behind it. And that is just that as much as you understand, like I say, how many times you have to read a book? A few times, 2 times, 3 times. It's a good book. People are, 50, 60, 70, 80, and they're reading the same book over and over and over and going to the depths. How many times do you have to read it? But in any case, this is not just a book and not a scroll. It's God's book. God is infinite. Torah is infinite. So therefore, as much as you learn, as much you read, even though you should, don't get lazy and say, well, I can't understand it anyway. It's so beautiful. Go into the depths of the Bible and the Torah and understand as much as you can. But then keep in mind, in the back of your mind, maybe in the front of your mind, that this is from infinite God, and whatever you learned is literally a drop in the bucket. So how much is your finite mind can understand of something that's given from an infinite God? Very little, of course, and that's symbolized by Simchas Torah, where we don't learn because how much can you gain from learning? Again, you should learn, and you gain a lot from learning. On the other hand, the very big underhand is that, remember, it's from God, and as much as you understand, you can't really fathom the depths, and that's why we dance, and we go out of our minds. You shouldn't go crazy, but we dance, and we sing, and we dance in one circle all around, not like square dancing or twisting dancing. We all, again, as I said before, we're all one. You dance in a circle because a line, there's a beginning of a line and an end of a line. Someone's in the front of the line, someone's in the back of the line, someone's in the middle. But when you have a circle, where's the beginning and end? Well, there isn't any. It goes round and around. The beginning is the end is the beginning. You're all one. So that's really the bottom line to sum up all these different holidays, Sukkos, Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, the idea of there's one God, but these holidays symbolize the depths and the deepness of really what one God gave us, and we should only visualize and spiritualize, and should be meaningful to us, the idea that there's one God and one world. Thank you very much.